So
Mhm,
I
mhm,
wasn't seeking an autism diagnosis.
mhm,
I was misdiagnosed as being bipolar, and
mhm,
I was actually put on a medication, lithium, just for a warning to anybody whose doctor may be thinking of putting them on lithium. It destroyed my body.
mm,
My thyroid blew up. It stopped my cycle. I gained a bunch of weight. I gained almost 100 pounds.
mm,
So this medication that they gave me that I didn't need for something that, I wasn't bipolar,
mhm,
but I always say this. I'm like, they don't really give Black women a chance. We're always
mhm,
considered labeled angry or
mhm,
labeled with
mhm.
behavioral issues and labeled, well, she's just bipolar, but I wasn't bipolar. I was
Mm.
autistic.
Peace, my people. Welcome to I Must Be Buggin', where we have honest, relatable conversations packed with powerful insights that spark curiosity and help melanated, gifted, and neurodivergent folks feel seen, safe, and celebrated. Here, labels don't have to feel like pathology, and complexity feels comfortable. Welcome to the latest episode of I Must Be Buggin'. This is your host, Sheldon Gay. As I always say, so honored for you all to be here and particularly excited for our guest that we have, which I'll get into in a couple of seconds. Let's start the conversation as we always do with a visual description for those it might be helpful for. So, again, my name is Sheldon Gay. My pronouns are he and him. Today, I have on my black over ear headphones. I have on my black watch on my right wrist. I have on a shirt that says, I am not the only one. Shout out to the National Society of Black Engineers. I am a black man in my 40s with light brown skin. I have black curly hair, which is faded on the side and the back. I have a mustache, a little tuft of hair that I always joke about calling a goatee. Behind me is a series of black bricks, as well as a bookshelf of some of my favorite items and books, including a pillow of my design, which says, labels don't have to feel like pathology. And so thank you for indulging me with that as always. Let me tell you about our guest, which again I'm really excited. I've been personally trying to have her on the call on the podcast for a while, and so really grateful that she made time for me. And so let me tell you. So Ayanna Davis, an award-winning autism advocate for Black autistics, especially women and other underrepresented communities, is an ally for the LGBTQIA community and a firm supporter of social justice issues who shares her passion and multifaceted artistic talents with her more than 50,000 followers. Her work has been well received and recognized both locally and internationally. And so, thank you so much, Ayanna, for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. If you want to do a quick description, my name is Ayanna Sanaa. I am a Black millennial. I have curly hair. I'm sitting in front of a gray backdrop. I have on clear lenses, and I'm wearing a black graphic tee from my collection that says Autism Acceptance Period.
Amazing. So yeah, like let's kind of start at the beginning, as it were. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your amazing work that you've done. I know again you've got a lot of accolades and accomplishments and different things of that nature. And then also tell us, what does neurodivergence mean to you?
I'm sure. Okay, so I am a autism and disability advocate. I advocate for mainly Black disabled women, autism in particular, and I advocate for children in underserved communities who may not get the proper resources and the proper care as their peers who are not in the same situation as them. I'm an artist. I'm a children's book illustrator. I've illustrated 37 children's books to date. The type of children's books that I personally like to illustrate the most deal with inclusion and diversity. I've illustrated books about children with cancer. I've illustrated books about children who have vitiligo. I've illustrated books, children in a wheelchair, and my latest children's book, complete children's book, is about a little Black autistic girl, and it's called I'm Autistic and I'm Phenomenal. I purposely wrote about a little Black autistic girl because I didn't see a lot of representation in children's literature for a little Black autistic girl. So that was done intentionally and purposely. I'm a former choreographer. I've always used art as an outlet to help me express myself because I do have communication issues. So I am a former choreographer. I'm a United Nations honoree, and I'm just a person who loves art and loves to create art and move through life in the way and the flow that artists do. Being neurodivergent to me just means having a different mind, looking at the world differently, feeling everything differently, hearing things differently, processing things differently.
Mhm.
But I feel like being neurodivergent is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Um, and yeah, like, I mean, as I said, right, like you've done uh, a million different things. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you talked about one, representation for um, little Black girls, right? Autistic girls. I think that one of my goals with my work is to help to make it so that other people who, like me, maybe didn't recognize that they were neurodivergent, until their adult years, help to one prevent that from happening, right? So that younger folks can kind of see, oh wait, this is a familiar experience. But also for those who are looking back and wanting to recognize themselves, and particularly their younger selves, because that's typically right, that inner child is one that still needs to be tapped into. And so having work like yours, and like I said, that speaks to, again, that representation, to me is like super super cool. As well as, again, this part of bringing art into the space. I think for me, I'm trying to get back into my art. Dibbling dabbling in a little bit of drawing and painting and other stuff. And so, again, reading more about the kinds of things that you've done, I started to get even more excited. So tell me, again, art is clearly of multiple forms, right? Like not just whatever, drawing or illustrating, but also dance. Like it seems, again, that art is at the heart of your joy.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Like, when was the first time maybe that you even recognized that this was something that um, brought you that kind of joy?
Art has actually been my oldest form of communication.
Mm,
I didn't speak much as a child,
mm,
and the first way that I started to communicate was through drawing. And
mm,
it was also the safest way that I felt to communicate.
mm,
So it's always been a part of me, and it's always helped me to express myself as an autistic woman. And most autistic people, we do have a hard time with communication, whether it's
mhm,
just trying to get others to understand what we're saying or trying to express ourselves in a way that people can understand.
mhm,
So I was always in some type of art program, some type of dance program, some type of theater program when I was a little girl
mm,
because it helped me express myself. And when I was 14, I started a dance program for
mhm,
girls in underserved communities.
mhm,
And that kept me going, that kept me focused. Being autistic, we get hyper focused on something, and they did exceptionally well. They performed at the Apollo Theater, they performed at the United Nations when I got honored. They've been
mm,
on BET, they were in a Disney Channel commercial. They've done so much. I've been in a production of The Wiz. I've choreographed the dancers in a local production of The Wiz. And then I got into illustrating books and different people just approaching me to do books for them.
mm.
And at first I wasn't really sure, like, why do you want me? Why do you want me to do it for you?
Right.
But, I just had to have a little more faith in myself and
Mhm,
take the leap. So then I started to illustrate books for other people. I believe I had done one for myself
mhm,
to begin with. And then when other people started to ask, I started to illustrate books for them. So it's always been a part of me. And I
mhm,
feel like in my darkest times, art was there for me. And art is the thing that I could always lean on. Sometimes art was my only friend. Sometimes if I didn't have a place for my emotions to go, like just for an
mhm,
example with theater, I could escape into a character because I didn't have a
mhm,
place for my emotions to go. And
mhm,
also, growing up undiagnosed, you don't really know when you fit in, but you know that you're different.
mhm.
And just quickly going back to theater, you can escape into this character. So you might not know who you are, but you know who this character is and who you want this character to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, multiple things are popping into my mind as you share that. I mean, one is, again, congratulations on starting something that clearly has not only had an impact on you, but certainly all of the folks who have come through that program that you started, right? Like those are not trivial accomplishments, and not they are also not trivial experiences for people to be able to say, hey, look, again, I was on BET, I was at the Apollo Theater, like all these different things, right? Um, so, again, congratulations,
Thank you
and
so
big ups
much.
on that. Um, I would also say, when you talked about art being a way of expressing yourself when verbalizing may not have been as easy, this brings me back to something I've been thinking about a lot lately, um, which is, our ability to recognize that just because someone isn't verbalizing in the way that maybe we might expect does not mean that they don't have anything to say,
Yes, exactly.
and finding ways to give them those outlets to say, okay, like, you know, um, again, maybe it is art, maybe it's dance, maybe it's painting, um, maybe it's an instrument, whatever it is. I think that there's something to be said, particularly um, in melanated and marginalized communities, where the last thing that I'll touch on that you mentioned is like being undiagnosed, which I want to ask a little bit about. But like, I think that um, there are a lot of us who are undiagnosed, are unidentified, who have been overlooked and maybe seen in a different light. But it's like, no, again, we, first of all, everybody's humanity is, to be honored. But at the same time, again, it's not as if this person doesn't have things that they want to do or offer or pursue. Um, we need to look at how, again, maybe these things are being displayed otherwise. And I think, again, a lot of times in melanated and marginalized communities, that stuff does come out through art and other like somatic experiences, let me say it that way. I wanted to pause there. I've said a few different things. I didn't know if you had anything that you wanted to reply to, or I can kind of go into the next question, but I know I shared a few things, but
Now we can move on to the next question.
yeah. So my next question was really to continue on that line. Talking about being undiagnosed, like how did you kind of, what was the story of you kind of recognizing that you were autistic, and what did that journey look like for you?
Well, I always knew that I was different. My family always knew that I was different, but they just loved me as for who I was. They just loved me as a person.
Hmm.
I do feel like being the fact that I'm an artist
Hmm.
is one of the reasons why it got overlooked because, a lot of times people are like, well, artists are eccentric, artists are in their own world. So
Hmm.
I do know that that probably contributed to it.
Hmm.
I used to
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
just go sit in the corner and draw, and my grandma would be like, just leave her alone. She's fine. She just likes to draw. And I didn't want anybody talking to me. I didn't want anybody near me. But everybody was just like, she's an artist. Leave her alone. Let her create her art. So I always
Hmm.
knew that I was different. And my family always knew that I was different. And being a millennial and only being diagnosed about 10 years ago, you spend most of your young adult life wondering why you're different. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
wasn't seeking an autism diagnosis.
Hmm.
I was misdiagnosed as being bipolar,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I was actually put on a medication, lithium, just for a warning to anybody whose doctor may be thinking of putting them on lithium. It destroyed my body. My thyroid blew up. It stopped my cycle. I gained a bunch of weight. I gained almost 100 pounds.
Hmm.
So this medication that they gave me that I didn't need for something that, I wasn't bipolar,
Hmm.
but I always say this. I'm like, they don't really give Black women a chance. We're always considered labeled angry or
Hmm.
labeled with
Hmm.
behavioral issues and labeled, well, she's just bipolar, but I wasn't bipolar. I was autistic. And I had to
Hmm.
get my assessment in a psychiatric hospital because everybody just thought I was crazy. Everybody was like,
Hmm.
we don't know what's wrong with her.
Hmm.
So I was institutionalized against my will.
Hmm.
And they at first also thought that I was bipolar, but there was one doctor there that was like, I think she's autistic and I wouldn't give her the assessment. So I took my
Hmm.
assessment. It was a lot. It was about 3 days, a couple of hours
Wow.
each day. It was two women that did my assessment. It was a lot of different like questions and activities, and
Mhm,
they were observing my behaviors. So it was long and it was grueling. I know every assessment doesn't go that way, but it was the environment that I was in, so that's the way
mhm,
that my
mhm,
assessment went.
mhm,
So then a few days later, I'm going to say 2 or 3 days later, they came back with their treatment team. They called my dad in. They sat me and my dad down and they were like, "Yeah, she's autistic. She's on the spectrum. I do also have ADHD and I'm dyslexic. So I have a lot of different disorders that fall under the neurodivergent umbrella.
mhm, mhm,
But the main thing that we did learn was that I was autistic, and that's why that I am the way that I am. That's why I communicate the way that I am. That's why sometimes I can't communicate at all
mhm,
except through art. So
mhm,
that's
mhm,
that's my diagnosis story. That's how I got diagnosed as being autistic. Do I think I would have been diagnosed earlier if I was white? Yes, I do. I had problems in school. Um, and they weren't really behavioral problems, but
mhm,
sometimes I didn't really understand what was being said because I'm a visual learner
mhm,
and all
mhm,
teachers don't teach in that manner.
mhm,
And I actually had a substitute teacher who choked me because I needed help with something. I needed a little bit extra help with something. And there were like people in my class, they knew this. My teacher knew that she would put the lesson plan up. She'd come, she'd make sure I was good. So in my third grade mind, it was normal for me to ask extra questions because
mhm,
this is what I did every day. But this substitute teacher, she's like, she just got so frustrated. She was like, "I'm so sick of this," and she just choked me. So I'm like, "You're a white grown woman choking a little black child. Like, this is not going to work out good for you." So I don't know where she went after that, but she wasn't allowed back into our district. But it just shows you that how black children are treated, black children with disabilities, even though it wasn't confirmed at that time that I was autistic and that I
mhm,
was disabled. Because until you enter like those teenage years when you're supposed to be transitioning and branching out into the world, I
mhm,
couldn't do it. I was stuck and nobody knew why. Like I couldn't I still don't do it. My dad does all of this for me. He does my banking and um fills out all my paperwork when I have 5 autoimmune diseases, so I go see a lot of specialists. When I
mhm,
go see the specialist, he has to fill out all the paperwork for me. There are a lot of things that I can't do that people are just surprised because they look at me and they're like, "Well, she's high functioning, so she should be able to do it."
mhm, mhm,
I'm not a fan of functioning labels
mhm,
because it
mhm,
deprives people of services that they may need because they're too high functioning, so they may not feel like you're entitled to those services.
mhm.
So it's been a long road.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those details. I mean, I've been following you for a while now, so
Yes,
seen.
and I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Listen, I mean, again, it's been, a fun journey. Um, I like your content, and I feel like I said, there's a lot of resonance between the kinds of stories that we're both trying to tell. And again, I'm thankful, like I said, that you shared that, because again, this is exactly why I wanted you and other folks like you to come on the podcast, because again, this is not about. I mean, I can tell Sheldon's story, and that's just Sheldon's story. But I want for as many people on to come and tell their journey, because it's not always as typical, or not, sorry, as like straightforward, I should say, as okay, a child displays whatever XYZ behavior, and boom, they're diagnosed, and like, everybody kind of goes on their way. Like, no, no, no. Like, again, as we both know, particularly for melanated and marginalized folks, that journey can be very winding, to say the least. And I'm sorry that anyone ever put their hands on you because they couldn't deal with what, you know someone else's humanity, really, right?
Yeah, and also
um
I feel like if you are going to teach, you should have some knowledge of children who are different and children who are
mhm,
disabled,
mhm,
neurodivergent children, autistic
mhm,
children. You should have some type of knowledge because I feel like you should be able to teach any type of child and you
mhm,
should punish them because of your lack and your abilities of knowing how to handle them.
mhm. Absolutely. No, I mean, that's a whole like podcast series to talk about that part, but I 100% agree. um so let's talk a little bit more about, you know you know again, you have a large following. You've been doing a lot of great things. Why do you think that your work resonates with so many people?
Um, well, when I first started, it's all still very strange to me. When I
Mhm,
first started posting on Instagram, it was
mhm,
when I started to accept that I was autistic.
mm,
So, because for 2 years, I was in denial. I wouldn't say that I was autistic. I didn't
mhm,
tell anybody that I was
mhm,
autistic.
mhm,
And I was
mhm,
basically just torturing myself. Once I
mm,
accepted it, it became the most beautiful thing. I developed
mhm,
self love. I started to love myself and I could really
mhm,
walk in my truth. So,
mhm,
when I got on social media, Instagram, in particular, because that's where it all started, I
mhm,
was just sharing my journey. I was just sharing things that I learned about autism. So, like, somebody else sees it, maybe it can help them, maybe it won't. And
mhm,
then one day, somebody just asked me to come on their podcast and share my story, and they called me an autism advocate. So, it wasn't just like I was like, I'm
mm.
an autism advocate. No, somebody else gave me the name.
Right.
So, the thing I hear most when I put my content up, I hear from parents and
Mhm,
they tell me that that I give them hope for their child and they learn a lot about their children from me. And
mhm,
another thing that
mhm,
I hear
mhm,
is that I touch on race, which is
mhm,
something that you can't ignore race and autism.
mhm,
And the other thing is that which I've really been hearing lately because I've been trying to do better with my content. Sometimes social media can be a little overwhelming and I will take long breaks. So I've been
mhm,
trying to do a little bit better with that. The thing I've been hearing lately is that it's so relatable and that people are saying that they feel seen and they're
mhm,
saying that this is how I feel, but I just couldn't fit it into words. So that's what I've been hearing most lately is that people feel seen and that they know how I feel, and I put into words exactly how they were feeling, and they
mhm.
know they're not alone.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that again, I know, I don't, at least currently, identify as autistic, but I know the general experience of engaging with your content is definitely about that resonance, and again, about this humanizing. Again, for me, a big part of this is not about, I say this, all the time, like, for me, I'm not the person. If anybody out there is looking for, somebody, just give them a list of like whatever attributes of whatever neurodivergent, neurotype. Like, that's not my thing. That's cool. There's space for that. But for me, it's very much so about providing access to humanized experiences that people feel like they can actually like reach out and touch and understand personally. It's not like some sort of distant science experiment. It's tangible because maybe they've gone through that same exact thing. Maybe they will, maybe they have a similar behavior and they're like, oh wait, I didn't think about that being, an autistic, attribute or whatever. And again, this, talking about race and bringing this back in, um, that I think is particularly true for us, as Black folks. I know there are many people who have talked about how stimming in Black folks can look different. And so, again, bringing up things that help people, who don't look like, little white boys or whatever, um, see themselves is, like I said, really, really powerful work. Um, to that end, and you've touched on this a little bit, but like, did you have anything else you wanted to share about how being a Black woman influences the work that you do?
Yeah, I'm basically just sharing my lived experiences. I'm sharing what I went through pre-diagnosis. I'm sharing how I felt pre-diagnosis. I'm sharing the things that I go through now, knowing that I'm autistic. Being in autistic spaces,
Mhm,
I can tell you it's not always safe to be Black in autistic spaces because they
mhm,
are white dominated.
mhm,
It's You're not always getting accurate information from white led autism organizations because they don't really talk to Black autistic people. They may get their one token Black autistic
mhm,
person, but after that, they don't mess with Black autistic people. They put
mhm,
what they want to
mhm,
put up there. They don't understand that autistic is going to present differently in a Black person because
mhm,
it has a lot to do with our culture too, and there are
mhm,
cultural aspects to that. So
mhm,
people often forget that, and they're just like, "You're always talking about race. You bring race into everything." Because look at the country we live in. Look at the country we live in.
Hmm.
Look where everything started for Black people in this country. You cannot leave race about it. You have to bring race into it, and you have to separate race and autism, because when somebody looks at me, they're gonna see a Black woman first before they know I'm different, because you're not gonna just know I'm autistic. You probably might know that I'm a little bit different and I have some type of disability. You're not just gonna look and be like, she's autistic, but you can look at me and be like, she's Black.
Hmm. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, one of the things that I've been talking to folks about and being mindful about as I choose different conferences to attend and places to speak, it is definitely about making sure that I'm not the token, that, there's that um, shared like diversity experience that's there. Because yeah, unfortunately sometimes you go to these conferences that are, I mean, I'll be honest, I'll be even more straightforward. One of my friends the other day invited me to this conference. I think it's like next March or something like that. And she was talking about, oh, it's like so great, da, 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 da. And I went and looked at the website, and it was just, I think there was like maybe two melanated people. I don't even remember if there was one Black woman actually, and I'm picturing it. I think there's one Black woman that might have been the only Black person, right? And the rest, like 95% at least of the people that were listed as like speakers or whatever were just white folks. And that just gives me, pause, because I'm like, that's not, it's not likely to be representative of the types of experiences that either I have or the people who are listening to, me speak will be having. And so yeah, and again, a lot of them think, oh, they can kind of just like take their experience and place it over top of ours, and it'll be the same. It's like, no, there's a cultural aspect that's very, very
Yes,
important. Yeah, sorry, were
absolutely.
you going to say something else?
No, I'm agreeing with you what you're
Okay,
saying.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't, you know, I wanted to make sure I gave you opportunity to share if you were going to add on to that. So I guess, another question is, what are like the impacts of neurodivergence that most people aren't speaking to? Maybe you're speaking to it, but maybe, kind of as I was just talking about, like you go into some of these spaces and you're like, you're leaving out um, some of these aspects.
Being Black and neurodivergent, being Black and autistic, a lot of times they forget that our experience is not the same.
Hmm.
So when they're putting out this information, when they're spitting out these facts, I'm like, this doesn't apply to everybody,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
there are cultural aspects to everything.
Hmm.
There, autism doesn't present itself the same in Black people as it does in everybody else. Just like stimming, it's not safe for a Black person to always stim.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not everybody doesn't have the privilege to stem freely. And I'm a person who is not really into masking, but sometimes you have
Hmm.
to keep
Hmm.
yourself safe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Black children, little Black boys and girls are demonized for things that white children get empathy for.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
run-ins with the police. The police will shoot a Black autistic man before they shoot a white autistic man.
Hmm.
So when
Hmm.
you go into these white autistic spaces, they forget about these things, and then they get offended when you bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Again, I think that what's not, again, this is why I'm hoping that, again, I mean, you already got a large following, but I'm hoping that I'm helping to introduce you to even more folks, because yeah, these experiences aren't, cookie cutter. It's not just um you know, it's not just, whatever the typical things that you've seen on whatever Big Bang Theory or whatever, a number one of these other shows, right? Like that you'd say, okay, that applies to this other person, applies to me or you. Um, it's funny. I'm thinking about it. I didn't purposely choose that show, but again, with um, the main character being named Sheldon, there's a lot of folks who will, you know, make funny, or make jokes, I should say, not always funny, but make jokes to me about these, various comparisons. And um, again, when I think about my youth, there were not shows. So like again, you're talking about these books that you're illustrating and different things like that. There were not shows that I really saw myself in, like my true self. Like you might have seen my Blackness, and maybe you saw, um, you know, like I'm into tech, so like maybe you saw like a tech guy or whatever, or person, and but like there was never somebody who fully embodied the way that I show up. And so, um, and I even think about today some of the work that I do. I was telling a friend recently that sometimes it feels like I've got to make a case for my neurodivergence, right? Because of how I typically present. Because people are like, well, that's not. And it's like, no, that's not how you see, this type of neurodivergence, but that is, for me, for example, it's like this is what giftedness it looks like for me, and for a lot of my other Black gifted, um, friends. And so, again, making sure that, you know, your face and your story and your work is out there is really, really um, important. And I would say, even going back to the masking thing, yeah, I'm 100%, on board with what you're saying. I'm definitely like on this mission to help people live more authentically, but not with this, lack of context around how that is different for us, which is, one of the reasons why I say, like, know when to wear your hoodie, which, for those who may have heard me say it before, is basically about understanding that there are going to be some places where, your hoodie being your like most authentic piece of yourself, or an authentic piece of yourself, there are going to be places where you do bring it out, and that's, your safest place. But then there's other places where you don't have to completely toss it away, you don't have to like put it in the trash can, right? But just put it over your arm, take it off, put it on your over your arm, and it's still with you, but maybe in that space it's not the place to be wearing it, because it is dangerous, again, particularly for folks that look like us. And so, not just uncomfortable, but like actually dangerous. And so I definitely, just wanted to affirm what you said there. um, so in 10 years, how do you hope the world is changed by the work that you're doing?
Oh, by the work that I'm doing. Well, you don't know how you affect people.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping that I am working with a congressman right now
Hmm.
to propose a bill for Black
Hmm.
Autism Acceptance Day. So I'm hoping in 10 years that bill will have been passed. Most people
Hmm.
don't know that the first time you present a bill, it is rejected, and a lot of people
Hmm.
don't know that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
a lot of people also don't know that it took 15 years for MLK's holiday to become official. So I just in 10 years I hope that the bill and the proclamation and Black Autism Acceptance Day is an official holiday.
Yeah. Well, I would be really, really excited to see, um, see that whatever pop up on my socials, or hearing some folks in community with talking about that. Um, that would be really exciting, because I'd be like, oh, you know what? I remember when Ayanna was talking about making that happen. Um, yeah. So, as we start to kind of like round out, what are some keys that you would say, some keys to neurodivergent healing and thriving, that you feel like folks should be aware of?
Well, me, only being able to speak from my personal
Hmm.
experiences, you have to rest your mind, meaning you can't really care about, not saying not care, but if somebody is expecting too much of you, you have to tell them and you have to step back and protect your peace and protect your space because
Hmm.
autistic burnout is real and it can
Hmm.
last years. And some people actually never recover from autistic burnout. It's not like neurotypical burnout, which is another thing that people forget.
Hmm.
Being an autistic person, autistic people have 9 to 5s, having to be at work all day masking, that's
Hmm.
physically exhausting, it's
Hmm.
mentally
Hmm.
exhausting, it's dangerous. You can crash when you get home. Like masking can lead to physical symptoms.
Hmm.
So when people speak about me and speak about how I take care of myself, if I don't have to absolutely mask, I am not going to mask. What you see is what you get.
Hmm.
I meditate every morning. I work on a schedule. Everything has to be schedule and routine with me, or I'm no good. Like I have everything planned. I know what I'm going to do in my day. I journal. I do stream of consciousness writing.
Mhm.
So there are just all different things that you can do for yourself. Find something that when you do it, you feel absolutely safe doing it. Like I love to read and I love audiobooks and I feel absolutely safe reading and I feel absolutely safe listening to audiobooks. So you have to find something that resonates with you and makes you feel safe and make sure that you give yourself the gift of doing those things because you don't want to end up in burnout. I've been there. It's hard to get
Mhm.
out of and there's not one way that you can get out of it. There are steps you have to take. Sometimes you have to be medicated. Sometimes you have to be hospitalized.
Mhm.
So it's very important that neurodivergent, autistic people, we take care of ourselves. And without the outside noise and all the noise in the world,
Mhm.
people don't understand our brains. So we have to show up more. We're either to people, we're either too much or we're not enough, but you just have to show
Mhm.
up at your authentic self or you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, yeah, no, those are all really, really great tools, and like you said, all right, everybody's um path to thriving and healing is, different. But I think what you shared is definitely helpful to folks. And I think one of the core things that I would point out is, that's through a thread through everything that you shared, which is that, you know, don't feel guilty about doing what you need to do for yourself.
Whatever you have to do to take care of yourself, make sure you do it. If your friends want you to go somewhere and you know that you cannot mentally and
Hmm.
emotionally handle that, your
Hmm.
friends just have to get over it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think, yeah, to that point, one of the things I try to read to myself every day is this affirmation that says, my community, it respects my boundaries. So if it's somebody who I would consider to be my community, they would understand Sheldon is not trying to do that. And that's okay.
Yeah,
Right.
my friends know me, they know how I am.
Mhm.
They know if like say one of them's having a birthday dinner, they know if there's a bunch of people there that I'm not gonna know, there's gonna be
Mhm.
a lot of noise. They know I'm not coming, but they extend the invitation because
Mhm.
this is my
Mhm.
friend,
Right.
but they know I'm not coming to be around your other friends because I don't do good with new people.
Mhm.
They know I'm not coming to smile in nobody's face because I can't do
Mhm.
the fake smiling.
Mhm.
So they
Mhm.
know that I'm
Mhm.
socially awkward. So if I'm not with my friend the entire night and I don't know all these other people, I'm not gonna know what to do with myself. So they know that I'm not coming. I work better in like an intimate setting,
Mhm.
one, two people at a time, go to lunch with one, two people, not a big dinner of 20 people. I don't, that's not the way that I operate. Most
Yeah.
people know that. Even my family, like they have family functions. Most of them know. They're like, she's not coming, but they tell me about it. They let me know about it. Honestly, and it sounds terrible, but I really only go to like funerals and stuff like that for my family. I don't go to the birthday parties. I don't go to the 4th of July, Juneteenth, whatever
Mhm.
they celebrate cookouts, because I know that I can't handle it.
Mhm.
And if I do go, I literally just go to show my face.
Mhm.
Hi, how you doing? And then I leave. My dad's
Mhm.
like, "You ready to go?" My dad knows my triggers. My dad knows when I'm about to lose it. He'll look at me. Sometimes he has to tell people, "Please get out of her face." So,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
have to keep yourself safe, and if that means that a few people are going to be upset with you, let them be upset. Life goes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Again, thank you for sharing that. Again, it's important to understand yourself so that you can even better advocate for yourself. But I think again a key thing is one, not feeling guilty for, asking for what you need, and two, having people around you that can help you. Again, this is the community piece. Like to me, it's like really, really important. Community is super, super important, particularly for those of us who operate outside of the quote unquote norm. So having a parent, I mean, I I have to say, um, as I even prepare to say this, I get chills thinking about what it must mean to have a father who's even willing to step in for you like that. Because there are many of us who have gone through life where when we're doing quote unquote weird stuff, that parent gets caught up in their emotions, embarrassment, and their like ego about it.
My
And
dad, I'm very blessed to have my dad. We have a really close relationship. He is my best friend.
Mm,
but he's also learning,
mhm,
every day he's learning something. When
mhm,
we found out that I was autistic, he didn't know anything about
mhm,
autism,
mhm,
but
mhm,
he put the work in. He's actually the one who found the therapies that would help me best.
mhm,
Because when I got diagnosed, the hospital didn't give me any resources. They was just like, okay, she's autistic. Here goes some medication. Bye, go home. They didn't give
right,
us some resources. My dad got online. He did the work. He found out therapies that would help me, CBT therapy, cognitive
mhm,
behavioral therapy, and DBT therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. Those are the two therapies that helped me best, that helped me most, taught me how to be mindful, taught me how to regulate my emotions. No
mhm,
doctor told me that. My dad
mhm,
found all of that. My dad found all of that paperwork. So I am definitely blessed, as an autistic adult who can't live on my own,
mhm,
which most people would never know that unless I tell them. I am
mhm,
very blessed to have my dad. Some autistic adults end up in like assisted living programs, or
mhm,
they end up
mhm,
in group homes,
mhm.
which they're not always treated the best there. So I am
Yeah.
blessed that I have, family that can help me cope on my day-to-day basis. Like I can sit here, I can have a conversation, but sometimes the only way I can function is if I'm in interview mode. But if you're sitting across from me, I don't do small talk. I'm not, you have to carry the conversation. And I'm just like, I'm like in a shell. I'm not, probably not massy. I'm probably rocking back and forth. I'm probably
Mhm,
tapping my foot. I probably got my noise canceling headphones on. But
mhm,
he knows all these things and he knows my triggers. So I'm just blessed that he's able to step up sometimes and be like, can you give her a little bit of space?
mhm,
All right, I need to get her home, or I need to get her off her feet. Because,
mhm.
also being chronically ill, you have your days where you just feel like you need to stay in bed all day.
Yeah.
Some days I do the bare minimum. I get up, I shower, I do all my personal hygiene, and I get back into bed because that's all I can do.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times people don't understand that, disabled people, people with chronic illnesses, autistic people, that we are all doing our best. And I feel like society doesn't give us enough grace, and that needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree. And it's actually kind of a perfect segue into if what are some things that, you wish the world knew or was building more capacity for?
I wish the world knew that we have different brains, and we were not built for this world. This world was not built for our brains. This is a
Mhm,
neurotypical world. We have neurodivergent brains. So
mhm,
just being born neurodivergent, you're traumatized right there because you're being born into a world that wasn't built for your brain. And
mhm,
I feel like if people knew that, we might get a little bit more empathy. I
mhm,
Someone made a comment and was like, "You autistic people make nobody want to feel sorry for you. We're not asking you to feel sorry for us. We're asking you to listen to us, to give us a
mhm,
little bit of respect, to stop
mhm,
talking to us like we're stupid." So those
mhm,
are the things that
mhm,
I want people to know, that we were not built for this world. Our minds were not wired for this world. This is a neurotypical world. So if anything, neurotypical people, you have it easy. You have it easy with the way your brain works. Me, I don't even know when I'm thirsty. I don't have that wire in my
mhm,
brain that tells me I'm
mhm,
thirsty.
mhm,
I drink water out of habit. There are many times where I've ended up in the hospital dehydrated just because I'm not drinking enough water because I don't know when I'm thirsty.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, and again, that is non-trivial, right? Like I think these are things that many of us take for granted. I think as I've begun to do this work, it has further like I've always been somebody who's been very curious and intrigued by uh, things that kind of exist outside of the norm. I guess probably because of me always existing outside of the norm. Um, used this term the other day where I think of myself kind of like as the people's platypus, and what I mean by that is like a platypus is um, just it's this creature that doesn't fit inside of any of the boxes. It's like, is it a mammal? Is it a is it a duck? Is it a what is this thing, right? But I think the beauty of the platypus is that it helps us to see that every creation, right? Like there's no hard and fast rules, but if you can just honor the fact that this thing deserves to exist and learn about it in its unique ways, you can then see yourself even more clearer. It's like, oh, I never even thought about the fact that
Yeah.
you know, I have to, or I don't have to think about taking a drink. And what would it mean to have to drink water out of habit, to potentially be hospitalized, right? If I don't do that.
Yeah.
right? Like that to me is, um yeah, again, that so for me, I'm always like, okay, how are we helping people to see what humanity really is? Because a lot of things, I think what a lot of people think humanity is just neurotypical, quote unquote, and then everybody else is just like broken. And it's like, no, that's not true. Um, the ways in which the society has set up the standards and expectations, that is certainly, quote unquote neurotypical, but like, and even what I would say, what I'm trying to shift my language to say is like neuronormalized, right? But like, um, that doesn't make you or me or any of the folks in our communities any less human. And so we need to find ways to, um, again, support ourselves, advocate for ourselves, and just like I said, just find the commonality, and community between us all, if that makes sense.
It does.
Um, so okay, thank you again. This has been really, really amazing.
It
Can you
was a
just
great
tell us?
conversation. Thank you.
So, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. You said.
I said it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed being here speaking with you.
Yes, thank you. And so I want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to learn more about your project. So if you have any projects that you have coming up, or other ways that people can support you, why don't you just share that, like even your socials and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, the easiest way to find me is to visit my link tree, linktree.com/phenomenally autistic. You'll find my Instagram there, my Twitter, my Blue Sky, my YouTube. Everywhere you can find me online is in my link tree. My Amazon author page is also in there, and that will take you to all of the books that I illustrated that I endorse. So that's the easiest way to find me is through my link tree.
Great, great. Yeah, and I will put that into the show notes for folks. So please do reach out and follow. Yeah. So thank you, Yana. This has been,
Thank you.
everything that I could have hoped for, and I'm again really, really grateful for your work, and I'm a fan. So can keep doing your work, and hope to again be able to work together on something in the future.
I hope so too. You have a great day, and thank you again for having me.
Sounds good. Thank you. And wow. I don't know about you all, but that was an amazing conversation for me. I'm so grateful that Ayana made time to stop by, with all the things that she's got going on, and all the work that she's doing. Again, I've definitely been an admirer for a long time of her work. And so really, really grateful that she was able to find time to stop by and share her story and her work with you all. And so as I think about everything that we just heard, I have come up with about three key takeaways that I want to make sure that we, you know, uh, grasp as we look to move forward, right? And before we go out and hit them streets. And so the first thing is that autism comes in many different forms, right? And this is true about any neurotype, but autism, sometimes can often, be overlooked, right? Or downplayed, especially at an early age if it's not as pronounced or people don't really know what to look for. And that's why, for me, it is incredibly important that we keep sharing our stories, right? People can arrive at their diagnosis and acceptance in many different ways. I mean, even Ayana talked about receiving a diagnosis, which, you know, again, what I would also say is that many Black people and Black women in particular will be misdiagnosed. And that is a challenge. And so, even after receiving a diagnosis, there's a journey towards acceptance of what is really going on. And that's why sharing these stories is so important, because again, it helps people find themselves through our mirror, through familiar stories, through familiar ways of being and talking and seeing the world, right? And so, again, hearing the stories of her grandmother telling folks to leave her alone because she was essentially, an eccentric artist, that's something that many of us from, certain communities will be familiar with, right? Um, but it also speaks to the benefit of having language and labels that we use on podcasts like this. Because when we have those labels and when we have the language, we can even better navigate those scenarios, right? Which then also helps to highlight the next point that I think we should be taking away, which is that neurodivergence can look different from melanated and marginalized people. And if we're talking about truly advancing neurodivergent advocacy while not centering the most vulnerable and marginalized populations, I have no idea how we can say that we're doing any real work, right? How we're doing the truly important work. Helping people understand and accept themselves and advocate for their needs helps them with a fundamental need that we all have, which is to feel fully human. And furthermore, as many of us know, if we make things safer and more accessible for the most vulnerable, we are doing the same for everyone, right? There is no zero sum scenario when it comes to creating spaces that help a larger group of people feel seen, safe, and celebrated. And lastly, I loved that art was and is a way to communicate for someone who doesn't follow normalized verbalizing patterns. I've always seen art as a form of expression and a way to communicate feelings and thoughts that transcend written or spoken language. However, it was particularly interesting to hear how her family dialed into that for her rather than what many families do, which is, to double down and triple down on insisting that their loved one align with neuronormalized alternatives, right? And expectations. And while that unto itself is enough to validate that that was a good thing, the icing on the cake is that we can now also look at all accomplishments she had and she was able to achieve because of the way that they framed it for her. And so we can find light where others might rush to place shade. And when we do that, great things can happen. And so again, I encourage you to go ahead and check out Ayanna's work. Her information's in the show notes. Check her out, hit her up, have her on your podcast, bring her out to speak. And if you are, though, an individual who's looking for help navigating your newfound gifted or otherwise neurodivergent identity, especially as a Black or otherwise melanated person, go ahead, visit my website in the show notes, sheldongaysbugin.com. Hit me up, schedule a call where we can discuss a plan on how we can help you, again, come to that place of acceptance and of thriving. And so with that, we're done here, but I will leave you with these three things. Take time today to help a child feel seen. Make sure that you're starting with your inner child. Next, don't be clever, be wise. Change yourself and you will truly change the world. And lastly, as always, remember, labels don't have to feel like pathology. With that, I'm out. Peace and hair grease. See you all later. Thank you for joining me on another episode of I Must Be Buggin'. I hope you felt seen, safe, and celebrated by what you heard today. Don't forget to visit my website, sheldongaysbugin.com, where you can catch all of my episodes, book me to speak, and check out my merch. Don't hesitate to hit me up on socials either. I'm eager to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your stories. Remember, this podcast is all about sharing humanized narratives about who we are and how we contribute to the beautiful and necessary diversity of humanity. This is our place to unmask and just be. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe. It helps our people find community. So until next time, stay up and enjoy who you were meant to be. Ashe.